Please remember to give the video a thumbs up, share your insights in the comments section, and subscribe to keep up with our newest narratives. An unassuming dinner transformed my entire existence in ways I could never have anticipated. That evening, every detail was meticulously arranged to achieve flawless execution. My husband, Tiago, extended an invitation to his closest friend, Tiago, for dinner, and I meticulously ensured that every detail was perfect. Tiago had been a constant presence in Tiago's life since their college days, and although we had enjoyed countless meals together throughout the years, there was something about this particular night that felt distinct. I found myself at a loss, unable to grasp the reason behind it all. The table was adorned with elegance, white linen draping gracefully, candlelight dancing gently, casting warm golden reflections upon the wine glasses. The scent of roasted chicken mingled with the earthy notes of rosemary, enveloping the space in a warm embrace that evoked memories of cherished family gatherings. I rearranged the blooms in the centerpiece, inhaling deeply while I smoothed my dress, the sound of their laughter drawing nearer from the living room. Tiago had always possessed a laid-back charm, effortlessly putting anyone at ease in his presence. Yet this evening a different glimmer resided in his gaze, something profound, a flicker of uncertainty. As we settled into our seats, the dialogue began to unfold with a natural ease. Tales from their university days, familiar quips that I had encountered countless times yet still found amusing. Tiago filled our glasses with wine, and we raised them in a toast to friendship, to cherished memories, to the countless years we had shared together. Then, in that delicate moment between the second glass of wine and the first taste of dessert, Tiago's expression transformed. His fingers glided along the edge of his glass, his gaze darting between me and Tiago, as though he were grappling with a weighty thought. "I must share something with you both," he murmured, his voice softer than it had been. A subtle chill crept in, contrasting with the room's warmth. Tiago, unaware of his surroundings, reclined in his chair, a questioning eyebrow arched in intrigue. "Oh, Tiago, let's not turn this into a theatrical performance," Tiago chuckled. Yet Tiago remained silent, devoid of laughter. His fingers drummed lightly on the table, and then he let out a sharp breath, casting a wandering gaze in my direction. "This narrative revolves around you, Bernardo." A knot formed in my stomach. "Who, me?" I reiterated, striving to maintain a steady tone. Tiago inclined his head in acknowledgement. He cast a fleeting look at Tiago before redirecting his complete focus onto me. I ought to have expressed this much earlier, yet the perfect moment always seemed to elude me. At this moment, I find myself unable to remain silent any longer. Tiago chuckled softly, a bemused shake of his head accompanying the sound. "Tiago, could you clarify what you mean?" Tiago gulped, his throat constricting as his Adam's apple moved up and down. He leaned in, his voice a mere breath above silence. "For years, my heart has been captivated by Bernardo." In a heartbeat, the air vanished from the room. Tiago stood motionless. I stood still, caught in a moment of disbelief. The rhythmic ticking of the clock in the background grew unexpectedly loud, filling the silence with its relentless cadence. The rhythm of my heartbeat echoed in my ears, while my fingers gripped the fork with increasing intensity. The words that had just been uttered lingered in the air, an unsettling presence at our dinner table, challenging my mind to grasp their significance, as they felt so profoundly out of place yet undeniably true. Tiago was the first to respond. He emitted a brief, incredulous laugh, shaking his head in disbelief. "All right, Tiago, it seems you've indulged in one glass too many of that fine wine. I'm serious, Tiago interrupted, his voice resolute. I assure you my intention is not to stir up any discord. For years I have concealed it, all in the name of our friendship, all for the preservation of your marriage. Yet I can no longer maintain the facade. A wave of dizziness washed over me. My hands quivered ever so slightly as I placed my glass down, my thoughts racing through the corridors of time. Tiago had always been a constant presence. Celebrations, festive occasions, relaxed gatherings. He had perpetually embodied kindness, consistently demonstrating thoughtfulness. Yet I had never once entertained the thought, this. Tiago's jaw clenched with tension. He rose with such abruptness that his chair let out a harsh scrape against the floor. This is absolutely absurd, he murmured. What prompts you to share this information with us at this moment? Tiago held his gaze, steadfast and resolute. I believed I could endure it, yet I find myself unable to do so. He faced me, his expression unguarded, exposed. Hannah, I hold no expectations of you. It is clear to me that your affection for Tiago runs deep. I would never attempt to intrude upon the bond you share. Yet I felt compelled to share the truth with you, if only for a single moment in my existence. Tiago's gaze lingered on me, anticipation hanging in the air as he awaited my response. Yet what words could I possibly utter? A fragment of my being yearned to brush it aside, to chuckle lightly and act as though it had never transpired. Another facet of my being. I found myself in a state of uncertainty. An intense, unarticulated strain permeated the atmosphere. A strain I had not anticipated encountering. I took a deep breath, struggling to summon the words I needed. Is that you, Tiago? With a moment of pause, I selected my words with precision. Words escaped me. Tiago nodded, a knowing look in his eyes, as though he had anticipated that very response. He cast his gaze upon his hands, releasing a slow breath. I'm sorry, he murmured gently. I could no longer contain it within myself. Tiago's fists tightened at his sides, his breath growing more labored. You had no right, he muttered. You have no right to be here, Aunt. I'm not attempting to steal her away from you, Tiago, Tiago interjected. I merely wished for her to be aware. Stillness, a dense, oppressive quiet envelopes the space. My heart raced, a relentless drumbeat against my ribs. A whirlwind of thoughts surged through my mind, accompanied by emotions I felt unprepared to face. I glanced at my husband, then shifted my gaze to Tiago, the man who had just transformed everything with a handful of simple words. The evening began with joyous laughter, enveloped in a comforting warmth. Yet, as I sat there enveloped in the soft glow of candlelight, it dawned on me that nothing would ever return to its former state. The quietude that enveloped us lingered, extending into what seemed an endless span of time. My palms felt damp, and the walls of the room appeared to constrict around me. I found myself at a loss, unsure of where to direct my gaze. At Tiago, whose revelation had sent my thoughts spiraling, or at Tiago, whose expression now burned with fury. Yet my gaze fell upon the table, the untouched dishes, the partially filled glasses of wine. All had appeared perfectly ordinary just moments prior. At that moment, it seemed as though the entire universe had rearranged itself beneath my feet. Tiago's voice sliced through the silence, sharp and laced with a tension I had never encountered before. It seems to me that you ought to leave, Tiago. Tiago's expression twisted, a blend of remorse and shame flickering in his eyes. He parted his lips as if to speak, yet a moment's hesitation caused him to reconsider. He rose gradually, the chair protesting against the floor in the stillness that ensued. I stood there, paralyzed, grappling with uncertainty about my next move, my response. Tiago had consistently been a reliable figure in our lives. How could he have concealed this from me? Why at this moment of all moments? "I'm sorry, Bernardo," Tiago whispered, his voice heavy with an unidentifiable emotion. "It was never my intention to cause you pain." The sentiments expressed were genuine, yet they remained perplexing. How could he have harbored such love for me all these years without uttering a single word? How was it possible for him to bear this burden? And yet I remained oblivious. Tiago remained silent. With a dismissive gesture, he turned away, striding across the room, his fingers raking through his hair in a display of exasperation. I rose gradually, the atmosphere thick with an almost suffocating tension. "Tiago," I murmured gently. Yet he remained oblivious to my presence, not turning to meet my gaze. I made my way across the room to him, my heart burdened by a swirl of uncertainty. "Tiago," I implored, my voice quivering with urgency this time. "I invite you to engage in conversation with me." He pivoted to meet my gaze, his expression a tapestry of inner turmoil. "Bernardo, you failed to see that this situation extends far beyond Tiago. This concerns trust, the very foundation of all we've created together." I shook my head, a tightening sensation gripping my chest. "I never requested this from him, Tiago. I was unaware. Your lack of knowledge is of no concern to me." He interrupted me, his voice escalating in intensity. "He has clung to this for years, and now he has unleashed it upon us like a bombshell, and you're suggesting it doesn't hold significance." I never claimed it was insignificant. I spoke, striving to maintain a calm tone. "Yet this isn't about us, Tiago. It revolves around him, his emotions. I cannot alter his emotions, yet that does not imply I share the same sentiments." Tiago's expression eased, though just a fraction. "You're missing the point, Bernardo. This entire situation transforms everything. What steps can I take to rebuild my trust in him? What makes you trustworthy?" The words pierced deeper than I would like to acknowledge. I grasped the roots of his anger, yet a piercing sense of betrayal coursed through me. After years of unwavering loyalty to Tiago, I found myself in a moment where every aspect of our bond seemed to be under scrutiny. Tiago approached the door, his movements deliberate and burdened, as though each step carried the weight of the world. "I will go," he said softly. "He has returned to us. I never wished for him to depart in such a manner. The tension lingers between us, unresolved and palpable." "Tiago, wait," I called out, stepping forward. He lingered, fingers resting on the door handle, our gazes intertwined, and in that fleeting moment, I glimpsed a raw vulnerability within his eyes. "I apologize, Bernardo. I truly am." Before I had the chance to reply, he vanished, the door whispering shut in his wake. The room seemed hauntingly vacant without him, and I pivoted to confront Tiago. The fury in his gaze had diminished, giving way to a deeper, more profound pain. "Bernardo, you failed to inform me. You never shared your feelings about him with me." My heart plummeted. I felt nothing, Tiago. Not in that manner. "Yet what leads you to such certainty?" he urged, his tone becoming gentler. "What makes you so certain that you never experienced any feelings for him?" I paused, for I had not. The words lingered in the space that separated us, delicate and uncertain. I found myself in a struggle to persuade not only him but also my own heart and mind. Tiago regarded me with a keen eye, his face a mask of inscrutability, before releasing a heavy sigh. "Perhaps I simply require a moment to digest everything," he whispered, his hand gliding over his face. "At this moment, my thoughts are in disarray." I grasped the meaning. I murmured softly, "I too require some time." He inclined his head, gaze unfocused, then pivoted and strolled toward the window. The gentle illumination of the streetlights outside painted shadows upon his visage. A chasm seemed to unfurl between us, as though a change had stirred within him, and perhaps within me as well. Throughout the remainder of the evening, our words were few and far between. Tiago withdrew into the quiet recesses of his mind, while I remained at the table, my thoughts swirling in a tempest of confusion and emotion. He appeared more closed off than ever, an impenetrable distance between us. He seemed like a stranger, yet an undeniable sense lingered that he was just as adrift as I felt. The evening that had commenced with mirth and effortless dialogue now felt like a fading recollection. The warmth and connection that once thrived now lay in ruins, shattered by Tiago's revelation. The night unfurled in a hush with the sole accompaniment of the clock steady ticking from the corner. Time appeared to flow in an altered rhythm, languid and burdensome. As I lingered in the stillness of our abode, a thought crept into my mind. Would we ever reclaim the life we once knew? The subsequent days were steeped in a haunting, unarticulated unease. Tiago and I hardly exchanged words, and when we did, it was as if we were treading lightly on fragile ground. Tiago's confession hung in the air, a dense fog that obscured our conversations and tainted every moment we shared. The memory of that night lingered in my mind, a constant loop of thoughts and reflections. Tiago's words hung in the air, the expression on Tiago's face spoke volumes, and the atmosphere grew dense, as if it were aware of a truth neither of us was prepared to confront. The morning following Tiago's departure, I attempted to engage Tiago in conversation to unravel the confusion, but he had closed himself off. He was beyond reproach. Uncertainty clouded my emotions as well. Yet the silence, the chasm that now characterized our dwelling, was simply intolerable. There were moments when I would find him gazing out the window, his thoughts drifting to distant realms, and I would ponder the depths of his mind, the emotions swirling within him. A sense of guilt washed over me, an inescapable weight on my conscience. I did not extend my encouragement to Tiago. Never had I considered him in such a manner. Yet the gravity of his revelation had nestled itself profoundly within my chest. Why had the signs eluded my notice until now? How is it possible for someone to conceal such profound emotions for an extended period? Why did it seem like a betrayal of Tiago, despite the fact that I had done nothing wrong? One evening, a week after the dinner, I found myself alone in the living room, the gentle illumination of the lamp creating delicate shadows that danced across the walls. The house resonated with a profound silence, devoid of the familiar sounds, laughter, conversation, the gentle hum of life itself. Tiago was at work, while I dedicated the day to unraveling the chaos that surrounded us. There were no definitive answers, only a swirl of questions and contemplations about matters I had never before considered. As I drifted deeper into my thoughts, the sudden chime of the doorbell jolted me back to reality. I rose to my feet, my heart pounding with an inexplicable urgency, and swung the door open to reveal Tiago, his expression awash with doubt. "Tiago?" Startled, I inhaled deeply at the unexpected sight of him. "What brings you to this place?" "I needed to talk to you," he said softly, his hands buried deep in his pockets. I understand I ought to have stayed away. Yet I found myself unable to abandon the situation as it stood. I moved aside, granting him entry. "It was unwise of you to arrive here, Tiago." "Tiago." I paused, caught in the web of my own thoughts, uncertain of the words I sought to express. Tiago had entered the room, his gaze sweeping across the space as if he were uncertain of where to take a seat. "What should one do?" I understand, he murmured, his voice barely above a whisper, tinged with a hint of regret. I had to see you just once more before I went away." I've been reflecting deeply on various matters, and it dawns on me that I've created quite a significant tangle of complications. However, I must express my sincerest apologies, Bernardo. I am indebted to you for that. For a brief moment, I remained quiet, attempting to grasp the meaning behind his words. The air between us was charged, a palpable force that seemed to beckon my fingertips closer. Tiago, what prompted you to share that with me? What compelled you to speak those words that evening? Tiago let out a slow breath, his eyes drifting down to the ground, for I could no longer contain it within. I believed it was a matter I could entomb in silence. Yet, the reality is I have been burdened by it for an eternity. In that moment, as I laid eyes on you beneath the night sky, the pretense of indifference slipped away, revealing the truth of my feelings. He gazed at me then, his eyes brimming with remorse. I acted out of selfishness, Bernardo. I ought to have kept my thoughts to myself. My intentions were never to inflict hurt. Yet it seems that is precisely the outcome I have achieved. His words struck me with an intensity one hadn't anticipated. His voice carried an immense vulnerability, brimming with raw emotion. The revelation itself no longer held the power to astonish me. The profound weight of regret lingered, a stark acknowledgement that he had been grappling with this struggle for years. With a deep inhalation, I gathered my thoughts. Tiago, you needn't have borne that burden alone. Indeed, you are correct. It would have been wiser to keep that to yourself. Tiago and I find ourselves in a rather challenging predicament. I understand, he murmured. I apologize. I had no intention of causing any destruction. His eyes reflected a deep sincerity, revealing the anguish of understanding the consequences of his actions. Yet I was acutely aware that I could no longer bear this emotional weight. It is not meant for him, exclusively for oneself. Tiago's hurt, I murmured, my voice trembling ever so slightly. I feel the pain as well. However, we require some time, Tiago. This is beyond my ability to resolve for either of us. We both require some distance to contemplate our next steps. Tiago nodded, the gravity of my words hanging in the air between us. I comprehend. I did not arrive with the intention of mending anything. I have come to express my sincerest apologies, and to provide you with the room you require. We lingered in silence, the weight of the stillness enveloping us. At last he stepped back, a nod of acknowledgement escaping his lips. I shall take my leave now. I wanted to express my sincere apologies and ensure you understand how truly remorseful I am. I observed him as he departed. As the door clicked shut behind him, an unexpected wave of relief washed over me. The conclusion was far from imminent. The journey had only just begun. Perhaps it marked the beginning of a journey toward healing. As the evening wore on, Tiago finally returned home. He felt weary, his features etched with fatigue. Yet, he hesitated as his gaze fell upon me, perched on the couch, lost in thought, eyes fixed on the horizon of my mind. He made no inquiries regarding Tiago. There was no necessity for him to do so. The silence that lingered between us spoke volumes. Instead, he settled next to me, his presence enveloping and steadfast. I'm at a loss for words, Bernardo, he murmured, his voice barely above a whisper, gentler than it had been moments ago. You needn't say a word, I responded, my voice scarcely rising above a whisper. All we require is a little time. Tiago extended his hand towards mine, his grasp both tender and resolute. After what seemed like an eternity, a sense of unity washed over me, as if we were finally aligned once more, despite the lingering unresolved issues that hung in the air. Perhaps that was acceptable after all. Perhaps we didn't require all the answers at this very moment. Perhaps it was essential for us to unravel it together, gradually, one step at a time. With each passing day, the weight of tension gradually started to dissipate. Tiago and I found ourselves immersed in conversation, rekindling our connection, and navigating the path ahead in the wake of Tiago's revelation. We were in the midst of healing, navigating our path forward. Yet, amidst the shadows, a flicker of hope emerged, delicate and tentative, whispering that we might yet prevail. Perhaps in a twist of fate, the truth had guided us toward an uncharted journey, one that promised to unveil a richer comprehension of one another, of trust, and of the essence of love itself.